Hey guys, welcome to the Voice of the Entrepreneur. I'm sitting down here with Connor. Connor, welcome to the show, man. How you doing, brother?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing well.
Yeah, awesome. I've been trying to sit down with you for a while, and I've been following you for the last, I would say, a year and a half. I came to your TED Talk, really great talk, and then I've seen your work literally progress in the last year and a half. So tell us about ManTalks. Like, what is ManTalks, and why did you start something like that?
Yeah, so ManTalks, really simply the broad overview, our mission is to help develop self-aware, high-performing, and impactful men. Right. And I did that because I started to see that a lot of guys were facing the challenge of isolation. Right. Like they had maybe some friends, they had family that they talked to, but it was all like surface level conversation. Right. So the things that were really important in their life, the challenges that they were facing in their business, in their relationship, the challenges that they were facing personally in their health, their mental health, those weren't getting addressed, right? So a lot of the times they were posturing up. They were saying like, oh yeah, my relationship, my business, it's all doing great. And then everything would fall apart, right? And a lot of that could have been prevented if they had a good community of people that they could be supported by, that they could reach out to and say, hey, listen, I'm struggling in my business right now and I could use your help because I don't have the answer. Right. And so, it started with some talks and we started these events where we had guys come out and share their autobiography, which is really cool because, some of the most amazing books that I've read are autobiographies on Elon Musk and Steve Jobs. That's how we take in information. And so I had these really amazing guys come out and share their autobiography and talk about parts of their lives that they had never really revealed before. And people just loved it. And they started reaching out being like, I want to come talk. You got to have this guy come talk. And, and very quickly our community started to grow and sort of mushroom up into this larger community, and then people from all over the world were reaching out, and they were like, I want ManTalks in my city, and I was like, okay, cool, let's see how we can make that happen. And so it very quickly evolved into a space of how do we take what we've done here in Vancouver and replicate that in cities around North America and then around the world.
That's awesome, man. So you've been doing this for a while now, so that means you've been coming across a lot of good men that are really invested in not only their own growth, but the growth of others. So let me ask you, Connor, this question about manhood, right? Where do you think manhood is? What's the state of manhood in this country or in the Western world, if you will? Because I remember I read one of your articles and you said that there is this long-standing expectation of being macho and stoic. I remember reading it somewhere that you said that. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so again, there's these sort of principles or masks or ideologies that a lot of guys feel like they need to live into in order to be a successful man. And some of those things are as simple as men don't cry, men don't cry, men don't show emotions unless it's anger, because anger is an okay emotion for them to share. Men don't share a lot. They don't really open up and express themselves. And so there's sort of these core components that a lot of guys are struggling with. And we see women starting to really thrive in our society, which is amazing, right? It's benefiting everybody. Sure. And on the other hand, we statistically see men struggling. Right, we see the rates of men graduating from college and university plummeting. We see suicide rates amongst men skyrocketing. We see depression rates amongst men skyrocketing. And so a lot of this has to do with this feeling of social isolation, that they can't go have meaningful connections and conversations with the other men in their life. And so there's some really pivotal moments in their life that they struggle with, right? If their business falls apart and they feel like they can't go talk to anybody, then all of a sudden they're isolated, right? And they feel like a complete failure, they feel broken, and they're kind of left to try and figure it out by themselves. Right. And so the state of manhood is that a lot of guys have bought into this idea that being a successful man means that you need to be a lone wolf. And that time and time again is what I see as absolutely crushing men, crushing them. Because I can do a lot by myself, right? I'm smart-ish, but I'm very driven, right? I might not be the smartest guy, but I'm very driven. And I can do a lot by myself. But when I start to open up and tap into my community, and I say, hey guys, I'm having problems with my marketing. I'm having issues in my relationship. I don't know how to have this conversation with my wife or with my kids. And all of a sudden I can pull from a large group of guys who have been there, who have struggled with it in the past, who are willing to connect with me and open up and say, like, this is what I did. And I can learn from them. My ability to be successful and to achieve the results that I want all of a sudden exponentially expands because I have the wisdom of other people who have been there and done that before. Yeah. So the biggest hurdle that a lot of guys face is being able to overcome this idea that they need to do it by themselves because it's complete garbage. It's just bullshit. You know, can I swear on your show?
Yeah, sure.
It's literally, it's complete bullshit. And it pisses me off because I see so many men out there struggling. And there'll probably be guys that listen to this and watch this and be like, I don't, like, that's ridiculous. And like, I'll figure it out by myself. And, 5 years from now, his life will fall apart and then he'll finally reach out, then he'll finally take action. And so I wanted to build an organization to be preemptive, to help men grow, to help them be more self-aware, to help them connect with a community who's going to support them. And to sort of catch them on both sides, to catch them before their life falls apart and maybe to support them after if they went down the path of, I don't need anybody's help, and all of a sudden they find themselves in an unfortunate situation.
Wow. So start early with men that feel like they don't need that support and the men that have fallen apart and need the support. And at that point, they're like, I need the support. I can't be this macho lone wolf anymore. I need to go there. ManTalks kind of stands for both of these people.
That's right. Yeah. And the sort of like third part of that is for women to see that we're doing the work.
Yeah.
Like I have so many women reaching out saying, thank you for the work that you're doing. And they come to our events because they're interested in being like, what are men doing to work on themselves? Because there's also this perception from women that, men don't care. That's just sort of like the general thesis. It's like men don't care, right? So men don't work on themselves.
They're not emotional.
Right? Men don't have emotions. Like there's all of these sort of stereotypes. And so the other part is that women can enter in this space and see like, oh, there are some really amazing men out there. Men who are working on themselves, men who are supporting one another, men who are working to, create a better society, a better world.
So Connor, ManTalks is a cause, right? It's first and foremost a cause, but you're an entrepreneur as well. That's why we're here in the voice of the entrepreneur. Yeah. How do you turn a cause into a business? I think that's one of the big questions because people want to have causes, but they also want to have a business that they can live the lifestyle that they want. How do you turn a cause into a business, man?
Yeah, there's a few components around that. I think first and foremost, people need to address the sort of like guilt or shame that they have around turning a profit from their purpose. Right? And so it's really this interesting thing because like you could make a couple $100,000 from being in the oil industry and most people wouldn't bat an eye. But all of a sudden you want to help people and make money off of that and you're an asshole, right? Or like you're like shady or shifty or something like that. So there's like these weird social connotations that sometimes we need to get over ourselves. So I think that's the most important piece first and foremost.
The mindset component.
Because a lot of people will have a reservation around it first and foremost. Whether they are wanting to go be a coach, whether they want to go be a consultant, whether they want to start an organization like ManTalks or a Voice of Entrepreneur. So that's really where people need to start. Because if they haven't addressed that first and foremost, all the rest of the steps aren't going to work. Then the next thing that they need to look at is what is the cause that I give a shit the most about and what are the results that I would really be fulfilled by. And those are right at that intersection is where I think that purpose resides, a deep sense of purpose. It's like, who do I really want to help? And what results do I feel rewarded by? Because some people have one or the other, right? Sometimes people are like, oh, I'm helping these people and that feels good, but I don't care about the results that I'm getting. Or sometimes they're like, oh, I'm getting great results and that feels good, but I actually don't give a crap about the cause. And so people are sometimes in that limbo. So the sweet spot is finding both and then being relentless, treating it like a business, teach yourself about business, educate yourself about marketing. Educate yourself on how to use social media platforms and get your voice out there, get your message out there. And that's actually a really important piece, is create a powerful message. And don't just create a powerful message that aligns with something that like just you feel good about, but start to test it. See if it's relevant for other people. You know, are you solving a problem that a lot of people are struggling with?
Right.
Like I can look at data and see that a ton of men are struggling to connect with other guys. That's just plain and simple. And then I can look at, I'm not too sure if your audience has heard of blue ocean strategy, but the blue ocean strategy, the core tenet of it, or the keystone, is basically the concept of finding a niche or a part of the market that is very unique.
Okay.
And instead of playing in the ocean where everybody else is playing, you kind of like build your own ocean.
Yes.
Right? And then you pull people over that.
Right.
And so start to look at the subsection that you really would feel rewarded by supporting.
Sure.
And, you know, actually like do the research, do the work to look into that data to see like, is this something that I would be fulfilled by, that I could, you know, profit from, that I would impact people on. Because I can look at the data and say, okay, there's a huge subset of people that I can support and that a lot of people aren't doing anything about. Like for every ManTalks, there's probably like 200 versions of that for women, right? Literally, there's like 200 for every one ManTalks. And so not that that's a bad thing. That's not a criticism in any way. It's just that I very much know that there's a niche there. Right, I'm tapping into a huge subset of people who just aren't being served. They're completely underserved.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to hit with the competition, right? Because there isn't much.
Yeah, I agree. I think the point of having that niche, you know, a subset of the sub-market is where you got to have your blue ocean, right?
Yeah.
And I also think, you know, after doing this for a little while, is that you got to just start first, and then you may discover the niche that you want to build on. But sometimes it might be as general as just, hey, I want to help, you know, people, you know? And then going out there to do something and then discovering that and paying attention to that. I think that's what you've done very successfully, I'd say.
Yeah, and I haven't been afraid to fail along the way.
Right.
You know, like I like to say, you fail your way to purpose. You fail your way to meaning. You don't figure it out sitting on the couch watching Netflix, right? You have to get out in the world and find out what works and what doesn't, what you like and what you don't like. And then I think the other component of that is you have to stop giving a shit about what other people think.
Yes.
You know,
Absolutely.
The only opinion that should matter the most is your own. You know, and I see so many people, especially helpers, especially people that are building businesses that are based on a cause. They are so worried about what other people think that they never get anywhere. Because they can't make a decision, because they sit down with 10 different people, they get 10 different opinions, and then there's 10 different paths that they can see themselves going down, and they can't choose because they're not listening to their own voice, they're not listening to their own opinion. And sometimes you just have to create the vision yourself, get insight and feedback from people, but at the end of the day, be relentless in what you want to create.
Right.
If you look like companies like Tesla,
Right.
I mean, so many people told him that was a stupid idea. It would never work. You know, the government was against him and other businesses were against him. And Elon Musk just found a way to make it work because he had a vision and it wasn't anybody else's vision but his own.
Absolutely. And like Elon Musk's story has become iconic in our times because of the big things that he's doing. But on a smaller scale, there's so many of us that do that every day. We persistently continue to put ourselves out there, build our brand, build ourselves, build our businesses, which is awesome. Connor, do you think that it takes a certain type of person to do this, or do you think it's a skill that anyone can develop?
No, I really, and I know that some people aren't going to like to hear this. I know because I've said this before, and people get all worked up about it. But I fundamentally believe that not everybody is built and cut out to be an entrepreneur.
Sure.
Like they're just not. Yeah. And we live in an age where everybody wants an award for a participation prize, right? And everybody wants to be told that they can do anything, and it's just crap. It's just not true. Right. Like I'm not meant to go and be an accountant. I would hate it. Right. I would not be good at it. Yeah. And the example that I like to use is, do you think that everybody should be able to go and be an opera singer? No. Sure. Not everybody is going to have the innate skill set, talent, vocal ability to go out and be a paid professional opera singer. It's just not going to happen, you know? And that's the reality. And the reality is that not everybody is going to learn how to be an entrepreneur. They just won't have the initial skill set. And great businesses need different skill sets, you know? So like my company doesn't run properly without my COO, without somebody running the operations of the business. And without her in that role, shit would go sideways because I'm not good at that, right? So I need that counterbalance. And for her, she doesn't want to run a company.
Sure.
She wants to take care of the operations, be behind the scene, and have a very different role.
Absolutely.
So I fundamentally don't think that everybody's meant to do entrepreneurship. And knowing that can be so freeing because maybe you find somebody that you want to work with and you crush that and that's your purpose in life.
I agree. And plus I find that there's this pressure now almost to do the ultimate, to be the best at it and become the entrepreneur, have that lifestyle, and just like it's glorified, right? Yeah. And people fail at it because sometimes it's not what they want to do, but it's what they think they should be doing.
Yeah. I mean, entrepreneurship is easily like the new rock star status.
Absolutely.
Right? And people are just buying into it left, right, and center because it looks flashy for a lot of people. Right. And I think one of the reasons why I like Gary Vee so much, and I might not agree with everything that he says, but I think one of the reasons why I like him so much is because he doesn't show the flashy side of entrepreneurship. He's not like Grant Cardone that's like, you know, the private jets and the real estate and the fancy cars and all that kind of crap. He's like, here's me on the plane at 5:30 in the morning and I'm tired as hell, but I'm hustling. And here's me at 11 o'clock at night after working a 17-hour day. Right. You know, this is the reality that a lot of people, this is the price that you have to pay sometimes.
Absolutely.
And not everybody's willing to pay the price.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, one of the purposes of this show and Voice of the Entrepreneur is to bring that reality out. Yeah. That's why I bring people in and really get real with them about the hardships of entrepreneurs, the struggles, because there's struggles, there's real struggles. Yeah. Business is one of the most toughest things that you will ever involve yourself in your life, and that needs to be shown in the world so that people can get the value. That's awesome, Connor. It actually ties in well to my next question, is that masterminds, right? You run a very successful mastermind. Now, do you turn people away when you see that they don't have the skills to be an entrepreneur? Say, no, you're not cut for this?
So not necessarily around not having the skills to be an entrepreneur. So we have two different segments. So we've got the regular mastermind that's really open for guys because it's a men specific mastermind group, but it's open for guys. And a lot of those guys are looking to either move out of their career and into a business of some form, or they've just started a business and they're looking to get support on growing and evolving that. So that's the one area. And then we have the performance mastermind. And the performance mastermind is for those high achievers that have already started the company, or they're, you know, the executives, the decision makers in the company, and they're already rocking it. Right? They're already like doing a great job. So we don't necessarily turn people away based on like, oh, I don't think that you'd make a good entrepreneur. We have a really specific focus on the type of individual that we want to attract into that. And again, it's men that are looking to be self-aware. It's guys that want to be high-performing, their version of high-performing. And it's men that want to have an impact in the world. And when we turn people away, it's when they don't fit in with those things. It's when they're like, I just want to make money. I just want to make money and buy myself a Bentley, and I don't give a shit about impact. I don't care about humanity. You know, those are the types of people I'm like, cool, you're not for our program. Like, this isn't right for you. And it's so clear when we have it, because we interview every single guy. It's so clear when they come on the call, and it's just like, cool, man, like, thanks for your time. This probably isn't a good fit for you. But here are some other organizations that might be a good fit.
Absolutely. And that's valuable. Like, that's valuable for that person as well. And of course, for the other members of the mastermind group, for sure.
Totally, because experience is so important. Right. And I think that there's too many businesses and organizations, especially within masterminds or communities, that are trying to appeal and serve everybody.
I agree.
And it just dilutes the continuity, and it dilutes the connection and the impact that that community can actually have.
Connor, why are masterminds so valuable? And let me be bold in asking the next question.
I love it. I love the preface. Let me be bold in asking this. Great.
Why should people be paying thousands of dollars to be part of a mastermind group? Like, I know there's value.
Yeah.
But how are they deriving that value? And a lot of people get turned away or turned off from, oh, this is too expensive. I can't get this. Where's the value coming from, you know?
Yeah, so they're valuable because you get perspective from people who have often lived a very different life than you.
Right.
They often have, sometimes they'll have similar values and beliefs, but their experience is so different, right? Mm-hmm. So I might be a master at being on stage and, you know, doing public speaking and being able to like create community, but be completely crap at marketing, or be horrible at closing sales calls or team development or operations and spreadsheets.
Right.
And so the great thing about Masterminds is that the value is in you being able to understand other people's perspective and tap into their genius. And it's something that is just almost incalculable in terms of the return on investment, right? Mm-hmm. People always want to see ROI up front. And it's hard to do that when it's community-based, when it's network-based. But the reality is, imagine having your own personal like board of directors who is there to serve you, who have each and every single one of them have a skill set that they've honed in on for decades, and that is not your skill set inherently. But you can tap into that at any given time. Sure. It's so incredible because no matter what the challenge, no matter what the problem, the obstacle that you're facing, inevitably somebody in the group is either going to have an answer or a connection or a resource that's going to solve your problem. And it basically optimizes your ability to solve problems in your business and your personal life. Right. So instead of having to like go out and try and connect with all these different resources and people, you can go into the group and be like, here's my problem. Yeah. And the guys are like, cool, I have a solution for that. Nice. I have insight for that. Here's what I did personally. And that cuts down your time of trying to solve that problem by tenfold sometimes. It's crazy.
But that requires a prerequisite, and that would be the men in the mastermind have to be committed to each other's growth. Totally. Otherwise it wouldn't work, because if they're only there to take, then what are they giving, right? So there's so many ManTalks or men's groups out there that want to recreate the same thing. Why is ManTalks so successful, man? Like, what have you been doing different, you know?
I think we have like really lasered in on who we're serving, right? And who we're helping. And that messaging is everywhere. That messaging is in our events. It's on our website. It's in the podcast. It's in, the free Facebook group that we have that has like a couple thousand people in it. Right. Like it literally is everywhere. And anytime that people come into the space that don't align with that message, it's just like, that's not a fit. Listening to what the men in our community want and creating our not product, but our service, our mastermind around specifically what they're looking to accomplish and achieve. And then we hold the guys in the group extraordinarily accountable to what they're saying they want to achieve. So it's not one of the situations where, like our mastermind is very different from like a men's group, right? Men's group is very personal. Sometimes they'll talk about business, but most of the time it's very personal. What we really focus in on is not only are you going to grow, but it's an expectation that you support every single man in the group in his development and his growth. And the emphasis that we put on that is that it's almost more important than your own growth and development. Because what I've seen is like, think about the times that you've grown the most. It's almost always when you're supporting somebody else, or helping somebody else. There's just such a rich feeling of that, right? You feel empowered.
It's juicy, man.
You can't help it, right? You're just like, I love, like most people, like they get off on that in some way, right? And they learn something about themselves. Yeah. And so we've really integrated that and embedded that in not only our culture, but into our content and into our curriculum for our mastermind. So it's an expectation that if you're a member, you are helping other people grow and develop. And that's like at the forefront of everything that we do.
That's intense. I love that whole part about the message. The message got to be really clear, and the people that identify with it will come in. The ones that don't will not. Yeah. Connor, people that are listening are thinking, okay, message. I love that idea. Like that idea of the message. How do you come up with that message? Like, that's the key question, though, right? The $1 million question.
It is. Oh man.
Is it an iterative process?
It's painstaking.
Yeah.
I think like, I think everybody has this idea of like, you see it in like books. It's like, create your vision and create your message. And it's like, how in the actual hell do I do that? Right? And it really is just iterations. I mean, my message is so clear now. And that's only really become clear for me in the past 6 to 8 months. And that's something that I've probably been working on for 3.5 years, because that started before I even started ManTalks. Trying to figure out like, what do I want to create? What's my message? Who am I really trying to appeal to? And so the biggest thing that people can do is to start to put pieces out and really say, what does my brand stand for? What does my company stand for? What's the voice that I want to be putting out in the world? Because your brand has your brand really does have an identity, right? And the message that your brand puts out in the world is so important. So being able to put that out there, the fastest way, the hack that I would give, the fastest way to identify whether your message is on point or not is by looking at the type of person or client that you're attracting. Now, you will very quickly find out if you're attracting if your message is right by who you're attracting in. So if you're putting out a certain message and all of a sudden you're attracting in all these clients or customers who don't align with your brand, your messaging is wrong. And it's such a clear space. We attract in the right people because our messaging is clear and it's on point. And we've done a lot of work to make sure that we hone in on that over the years and take the parts out that we're attracting in the wrong people.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. And it's also, like you said, an iterative process. You got to keep refining it over and over again. And then you may think that when you started, your message might have been different, but it turns out to be completely different because of who you're attracting.
Absolutely. And the last part that I would say is avoid the temptation to, not copy, but avoid the temptation to look at what other really successful brands are and just create some iteration of that, some version of that. Because people can always tell. There's so much power in having like your own clear message and putting it out there. Because it plays into that blue ocean strategy, right? People will be like, oh, this is different. This isn't Apple messaging. This isn't Shopify messaging or Uber messaging or Google messaging. This is ManTalks. Like, I get that, right? Or this is Voice of Entrepreneur. I totally get that. It's different from everybody else that's trying to vie for that space.
Yeah, if you're going for a watered down version of some other messaging that has worked for someone else, it's going to be shown. People are going to see right through it. And that's one of the things I've been learning through my process as well is there's that fear, right? That my message might not be good enough to attract the people that I want. Why don't I just piggyback on the message of somebody else, right? And then when I grow, I'll make my own message. But I completely agree with you when you say, make your message as clear as possible and have your own little blue ocean, if you will.
Yeah, and try and avoid the space of like comparative analysis. I see so many entrepreneurs being like, oh, we want to be the next Apple of this category or the next Uber of this category. And then all that you're doing is associating your brand with an already existing brand. And so people don't see the uniqueness in that. And they're like, oh, you're just trying to copy that. That's like from a psychological standpoint, that's instantly what they do. And I could create a comparison between ManTalks and like a TED Talks or something like that. But we don't do what they do. Right? But it would be easier for people to understand than me just being very clear on what it is that we actually do. So that just like avoid that at all costs. And because I hear, especially like new entrepreneurs, they want to just be like, oh yeah, we're like the Google of this or the Apple of that. And then people are like, oh, okay, so you're just trying to rip that off? Yeah.
And it shows, right? So absolutely. Connor, probably a lot of people that watch successful people, they have one question in mind that comes up, especially when you're starting out. How did you get that success? Like, what did you do to get where you are today? Especially if people are trying to build a cause business, right? The business that has a brand that's built behind a cause like yours. Walk us through the steps, very quickly as to what are the steps, and maybe you have to give us some trade secrets. I don't know. What are the steps to going from really nothing, having an idea in your head, to building a following of people and a brand?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to use the word relentless probably a few times through this because there's a certain degree of being completely relentless in so many different categories that it's just required. You know, you have to be relentless in speaking your message. You have to be relentless in connecting with people and talking to them about what you're building, and really being self-aware enough to gauge into their reaction and be like, what do they think of this? You know, what's off, what's working, what's not working. So you really have to be able to tune into people. You need to be relentless in your humility, because being an entrepreneur, no matter what type of entrepreneur you are, is going to crush your ego. And if you don't let it crush your ego sometimes, you're going to fail. Because I see more people fail off of pride because they're too stubborn or too pig-headed or too like, I have the answer, that they can't go out and ask for help or reach out for support or get the funding or the feedback that they need. That's what actually takes them down, especially in the initial phases, right? Because we all want to prove ourselves. Like right out the gates, we're like, I want to prove myself that I can be like this massive success. And it's, oh man, that takes so many people out. So be relentless. And the caveat to that is know the difference between being relentless and being blind. And so, you know, in the very beginning, you need to have a certain degree of like relentless optimism, of being optimistic that you don't have the answers, but you can find them. You know, maybe don't have all the clients that you want in order to like really kick off properly, but you'll find them. And there's a difference between being relentlessly optimistic and being blindly optimistic. And this is, again, where I see a lot of people struggle, is they're just like, the spiritual people will be like, the universe will just provide it for me. And then they don't go take action, right? Or they'll just be like, it'll just work itself out. But then they don't do anything about it and then it falls apart, right? So there's that part. That's all mindset, I know. The tactical stuff is really by understanding and having the self-awareness to know what you're inherently good at and to know the gaps that you need to fill within your business, whether that's in your team, whether that's in your marketing, whether that's in your accounting, whatever it is. And then being smart enough to find people who are smarter than you to absolutely like crush the execution on those things. Especially in the very beginning, you know. Don't be afraid to get insight from other people. Like when I first started ManTalks, before I even launched anything, I got a group of like 20 guys to come and sit down. And I said, here's my idea. Here's what I want to create. Give me some feedback. And we brainstormed for a few hours. And I did that a few times. And these guys just loved the idea. And they became the sort of like first supporters that helped to launch ManTalks. So that the other piece is find people who believe in your cause, who believe in your message. You know, it sounds so simple, but so many people are out there trying to build something by themselves. So whether it's through a mastermind or whether it's just through like a group of people who believe in you and who believe in what you want to do, that's the biggest piece. And then the last piece I'm going to leave people with, because I know this has been a longer answer. The last piece that I want to leave people with is to build your runway. You know, I worked for a year and a half at Apple while building ManTalks on the side. And so there was a year where I worked 90, 100-hour weeks, where I just 7 days a week, I'd go work 50, 60 hours a week at Apple. And then every single night and Saturday and Sunday, I was working on ManTalks. And that built it up to the point where I felt confident and comfortable and secure in stepping out of my very well-paying job, corporate position, stepping out of that and stepping into my business full time. And it's a terrifying transition because the mind loves security. It doesn't like not knowing what's happening or what's going to come. And so that can be a really scary transition. So set yourself up for success. And for some people, that's going to look like I need to have 50 grand in the bank, or my business needs to be generating $15,000 a month in order for me to step out. So set that bar for yourself so that you know when the time to like really lean into it full time is.
Absolutely. Love the energy, love the authenticity, man. Like I think those really words of wisdom because you've been through it. You've seen it, right? The whole thing, right?
I've seen so many guys go through it, man. So
exactly.
It's really cool.
It's awesome, man. My last question to you, Connor. I want to ask you, you've been working with a lot of successful people, right? This is something of a personal curiosity. What are the three top traits that you think successful people, successful entrepreneurs, successful men, women, whoever, have, and what are the ways to develop them?
So optimism, again, I'm going to go back to that one, is so key. It's so key. There's been a lot of studies. Harvard did a study that came out and really showed that one of the top qualities for entrepreneurs is optimism. And that's why I said it's important to understand the difference between blind optimism and relentless optimism. How you cultivate optimism is really noticing. A great book would be Carol Dweck's book called Mindset. And understanding the difference between fixed and growth mindset. That's a great place to start. Because you're going to be able to cultivate optimism by understanding where you're very rigid, where your doubts reside, where your insecurities reside, and you start to really learn from your insecurities, because they'll help grow you into a much more confident person that can be more optimistic in the face of adversity.
Yes.
The second piece is grit. This quality has been talked about a lot, and the grit or determination, whatever verb you want to use, whatever words you want to use, the ability to really power through in the face of adversity is so important. And to understand that grit oftentimes is going to be helped and served by you having a kick-ass community of people who have your back, right? So that if you do feel down, like you've taken a knee and you're like, I don't know how to keep going, I don't know where the money is going to come from, like that you have a group of people behind you who are like, it's okay, we got you, let's figure this out together. So sometimes grit is understanding that it doesn't have to be lonely on the journey to the top, that you can bring people with you, and that sometimes they'll be there to pick you up. The last piece might be a little bit interesting, but the last piece is vulnerability. So this is like, and I can't stress this enough, that not vulnerability in the sense of like, you need to go cry in front of people, constantly, or that you need to open up to every single person that you meet and tell them your life story and your deepest, darkest moments. That's not it, right? That's oversharing, and that actually has the reverse effect.
I agree.
But what I've seen from really successful people is that they intuitively know when they need to go connect with somebody and be vulnerable enough to say, I don't have the answer for this. I don't know what to do. And I know instinctually, intuitively, that if I don't reach out and get help, that this is going to fall apart really quick. And so that vulnerability is something that a lot of people struggle with, because they want to figure it out. They want to be that rockstar entrepreneur that doesn't need anybody else. But that vulnerability to connect with people does two things. One, it allows you to get help in solving your problem or challenge or obstacle. But two, it also allows people to feel a part of your cause, to feel a part of your growth and your development. And that gives them purpose and meaning in your life and in your business. And so that is maybe the most important component that is probably the hardest for people to execute on.
So relentless optimism, that's number one. Being able to have
grit and determination,
be able to have people that'll support you through it. And then the third one is vulnerability. And I think vulnerability is contagious. Because when you become vulnerable, other people see that, they want to be, and they will follow, or they will attach to your message a lot quicker because of that.
And just to go back on, like, you asked the question of, like, how do we grow so quickly? It's like, vulnerability is refreshing. We live in a time where not everybody, but the majority of people are, selling this version of themselves that's just bullshit, and they're selling this facade, and people don't want that. What people connect to is the realness, is the rawness of like who you are, what you've gone through, the challenges that you face. And that's what people connect with. That's real. And when you can give them that, people just show up. They show up to support you. They show up to be a part of your community. And that's like really the magic. Not the secret sauce, because there is no secret ingredient, but it will make a huge difference in your business and in your life.
Absolutely. Love it, man. Love the whole piece about vulnerability. I've been a huge fan of that for a while, and been practicing that as a man, as an entrepreneur in my life, and it's making some real differences. So totally. Thank you, Connor, for coming on to my show, my man. This was an awesome opportunity to sit down and just share with you, your good stuff in your mind. So thanks, man.
Thank you.
Guys, another great interview with another amazing entrepreneur that's living a life of purpose. One of the things that I got from this was how Connor said meaning. Meaning is so important when you want to build something that's long lasting. And it's not easy to define your meaning. You have to go out there and do this stuff and really be persistent, that be relentless in going out there to create what you want. And you will find the meaning. You'll be able to define it better. So I hope you enjoyed this interview. Until I see you again next time, have a great one, my friend.